I don't know if you guys know who Hannah Einbinder is. She's the actress in the show Hacks. A few weeks ago, she made a lot of news for speaking out against Israel. I want to show this clip of number seven because, as you said earlier, this clip made rounds in a lot of pop culture spaces. Like it made the rounds with like a lot of actors, a lot of actresses sharing it, and that always alarms me because obviously they like run culture and a lot of young people watch it. But I want to play this clip really quick and then comment on it. Okay, so two quick things for me. Number one, I found it interesting that the crowd's not entirely with her in that. As someone who gives speeches all the time, giving them my entire life, they're not clapping the way you should be if you're giving a speech like that. Number two, she's terrible at giving speeches. She sounds like she's doing like a phone sex hotline or something with this breathy stuff. If you're going to make a speech like that, talking about something, and again, I know what I'm talking about. You know what you're talking about. Jamie knows what he's talking about. You have to come from it from conviction and authority, and you have to be loud. So just putting on that. Why do this if you're an actor? I really like Hacks. I've been watching it. I'm not watching this season just because I don't want to give this lady anything. I just think it's garbage. And to say that I'm not for murdering civilians, but you're okay, I guess, with babies being murdered and women being raped on October 7th. What do you make of this? And normally I don't care what celebrities think, and I still don't, but I have seen this clip everywhere, and it's really daunting. And I know you've written about it, Eve.
Yeah. I mean, her show's called Hacks. Anyway, I've got a bone to pick with you, Megan, because I didn't think I would ever have to watch that again.
I'm
Or
sorry.
or
I'm
no,
both
it's
of your
just
faces, by the way, you're like rolling your eyes. So
and I
sorry.
know because you look, it hits all of the notes. You ask why. Well, we know the reason why is because she wants to be part of the elite club, and in order to be in the elite now, you have to abide by the commandments that they set, and in those commandments, it includes that you have to be free Palestine and more or less anti-Israel. And she used a lot of inflammatory language in her speech that was not both sidesing anything. She was coming down hard with Hamas numbers, Gaza Ministry of Health numbers, which come from Hamas, Hamas talking points. She made lip service reference to October 7th. She's never once used her social media to say anything about October 7th, anything about the hostages. But the point that I made on Twitter immediately after this speech that I'm going to repeat, which is absolutely crucial, that I don't think enough people really hammered home, is that the entirety, the basis of Hannah's argument falls apart completely. Because what she does is she defines herself as a queer Jew. By the way, I'm a lesbian and a Jew. She defines herself as a queer Jew with respect to Palestinianism. She basically gives the condition to her Jewishness, and her Jewish identity is dependent upon there being a Palestinian people too, and a Palestinian state, and respect for the Palestinians. Palestinian identity was invented in the 1960s. The Jews have existed for thousands of years. So if you were a queer Jew before the 1960s, how are you defining your existence? Her entire argument is completely flawed. She's an idiot, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I agree. Jamie.
Uh, well, first of all, I hate the word queer. I don't know about Eve. What, okay. I hate it for a
Same,
lot
but
of,
I'm straight, so I don't know if I'm
well,
allowed.
no, you can't. I mean, I hate it for a lot of reasons. I've written about it. I mean, one is sort of the political reason. You will never see a center right or really even centrist gay person use that word to define themselves. It's almost entirely used by radical left wingers. And that's really the origins of that word, right? I mean, it goes back a long time. I'm like old enough to remember what it was like being called a queer on like the playground, so I'm not into like,
Yeah.
like recovering this word and owning it, at all. It also seems, maybe in this case too, I don't, Eve probably knows more, you know, queer also seems to be mostly used by basically straight women who like many years ago kissed a girl, and it like allowed them to become part of this like minority community
It's
that has a
it's a
lot that yeah.
it's a gatekeeping.
Yeah.
It's like it's gateway. It's a gateway. It's a gateway.
Yeah, I call it queer face, because it's
Mhm.
basically like
Right.
appropriate. It's like appropriating. We don't use that term cultural appropriation. It's like appropriating like gay and lesbian culture for your own selfish and in this case political needs. Um, yeah, I mean, the fact that this was taking place at an LGBT rights event, I thought was sickening. But I do take, I mean, I didn't really recognize this listening to it, but Megan would know better than me. But, if you're saying it sounded like that she wasn't getting that much support from the audience.
She was,
Uh,
but you would expect waves of applause, which is what they call it when you're training someone. Like you have to ride the wave
yeah,
in order. And I also like it reminded me kind of like of I forgot her name, the climate change lady who's really obsessed with climate change. I'm sorry, she's everywhere. Greta Thunberg. Sorry, yes. And that Greta Thunberg was doing a rally where she started talking about Palestine, and people were like, "Hey, we're here for
yeah,
climate change." Like
right,
that's how it kind of they were like, "We're here to talk about like."
right. Gay
LGBT, what
rights.
is
Yeah,
this?
Yeah.
And the
yeah,
idea again that being queer means you're pro-Palestine. Like, I'm sorry, I have two guests here who are,
right.
not straight saying that. We have a question right here. I don't know for Eve and I believe Jamie. Really quick, I just want to get it in while we still have time for everybody. But I totally agree with everything you're saying. Hi Haley, how are you?
Hi.
Welcome. Do you have a question for Eve or Jamie?
Well, yeah, so full disclosure, I'm Israeli American, so I am totally behind everything you're saying. And Eve, you are a hero of mine. And I mean, totally understand. So I just wanted, because you're touching on Hollywood for a second, so I just wanted to like ask, I've noticed since Trump has been elected, I've noticed that Hollywood, because I actually forced myself to watch the Oscars this year, and I usually don't. I can't stand them. But I forced myself to watch the Oscars this year, and I thought it was very apolitical. Like they tried
Mhm.
very hard not to go into politics. But when it comes to Israel, it's like there's an exception beyond all belief. Like that was the only thing that I can remember where they got the standing ovation and all of that. So my question is, I mean, obviously there's so many quote unquote Jews in Hollywood, but I know that they're very much on the Free Palestine side. What is it going to take? I mean, are we going to have another October 7th for them to realize what's happening and how they're being essentially either manipulated or just ignorant? I mean, I don't understand how they can be ignorant because I'm sure half of them have been to Israel. So it's like, it's just, I don't know what it's going to take.
They're not ignorant. They know exactly what they're doing. They're making a choice. They're cowards and they're selling their souls to remain part of the conversation and to be part of what I was already describing as kind of like this elite that has been created that has to unquestionably, without asking questions, without debate, accept a list of societal norms in order to be considered safe. And this has been going on for the best part of the last decade. And the apex of it is now Israel. I mean, I would argue that it's always been Israel, but it hasn't come to the fore of the conversation until October 7th really exploded this whole thing, and October 8th, notably. And I believe that we have been living in October 8th ever since. It's not gone away because we're living in this post-October 7th world where Israel is not just seen as it's not just a state that's being criticized. It's a state in which it's socially acceptable to actively call for its total dismantling and destruction. I mean, there's no other country in the world where it's socially acceptable to go around saying, I think that from I don't know the different borders of Russia, but from the blah to the blah, Russia, no more, or the same with China, no one is, or Korea, like nobody's going around talking about dismantling any other country, no matter how horrendous they actually have horrific human rights.
Except the North Koreans, they're talking about swallowing up South
Right,
Korea.
right, totally. This has become the socially acceptable thing to do. So as you say, like the Jews in Hollywood, they're, you're asking, is it going to take another October 7th? No, like October 7th's already happened. 1,200 people were massacred, raped, their houses set on fire, their bodies burned to a cinder. This has already happened. Maybe if it were them personally, if it happens to them, if they have an experience like Josh Shapiro, maybe they'll change their minds. We'll see if Josh Shapiro becomes a little less critical of the Israeli government, or a little bit more strongly pro-Israel than he has been in the past, given what's happened to him this weekend. I doubt that he will, but my point is that these Jews in Hollywood, they've made a choice. They know exactly what they're doing. And that's why they're cowardly about talking it out, or, appearing as talking heads for anything. It's easy to put a pin on your lapel. It's far harder to have to take questions in a forum like this, for instance. They would never appear on any form of show where they would have to meet with their adversary.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I want to doff my historian cap again and look back in time to an episode that shows how far down we've come. And at the Academy Awards in 1978, I believe, Vanessa Redgrave, who was a very well-known anti-Israel activist, she won the Best Actress award. And there had been people protesting her outside, pro-Israel protesters protesting her. And she got up, and in her speech, she attacked Zionist hoodlums outside and went on this whole tirade about how awful Israel was. And not soon after her, in the proceedings, Paddy Chayefsky, who was a great American screenwriter, he wrote Network, lots of other movies. He got up, and I had to look it up, but he said, I would like to suggest to Miss Redgrave that her winning an Academy Award is not a pivotal moment in history, does not require a proclamation, and a simple thank you would have sufficed. And so, and by the way, the audience, okay, which I'm sure had more views, if not as many as they do now, the audience gave him a huge round of applause, okay? Now contrast that to last year when Jonathan Glazer, who's the director of The Zone of Interest, he gets up and he gives a speech. He gives a speech that's basically likening Gaza to the Holocaust, right? And what happens? Steven Spielberg comes up later in the evening to present an award, doesn't say a thing.
Yep.
Okay, the guy who directed Schindler's List and who started a whole Holocaust archive of interviewing Holocaust survivors. He's done a lot for Jewish causes. I'm not, I don't want to leave the impression that I hate Steven Spielberg. But he had an opportunity to say something. He had a lot of. He's probably one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. He's got nothing to lose. Like anyone's gonna, ruin Steven Spielberg's career. He didn't say anything, and so I think that's like the difference between like the tough Jews in Hollywood of like 40 and 50 years ago, and the Jews we have now. Right. And I'm not saying there are Jews in Hollywood who are speaking out about this, right? But Deborah Messing, right? She who just is fantastic. I'm sure Eve knows others. I mean, there are others, right? But there are a lot who are either, like Hannah Einbinder and basically, betraying their people, or most of them are just silent because they don't want to rock the boat.
And Haley, there's a lot of people that I know, Eve, Jamie, and I get this experience, like famous people that will like DM you or email you and be like, I'm really on your side, but I can't say it because it'll X, Y, and Z. It'll hurt my business, it'll hurt whatever. And I used to be very compassionate because I was like, and this isn't even just about Israel, but I get a lot of it about Israel. I think because I'm like a Zionist, it's not Jewish. And I'm always like, you know what, like at a certain point, silence is how the atrocities of lots of horrific things have happened, is the silent Holocaust being one of them. And I'm not going to give you your conscience cover. So it's hard for me. I mean, I've lost friends over this issue because I don't like pussies. Sorry if that's graphic. I don't relate to it. I don't like it.
Just one quick thing. I just think that Hollywood has made a lot of money off of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
I mean, it was their number. I mean, how many movies can we name? We can name a whole list. And the fact that they've made a lot of their money off of it, and now that they're doing this, it just feels like the biggest betrayal to the Jewish people.